What is
This right here. Yeah, this right here is what I don't like. Yeah, that's insane. This is actually broken.
You get boosted up. You can actually crouch jump that, yeah. And okay, that is a severe angle. We talk about getting rid of deep corners. This is at a viewing angle for an attacker that is really
There's nothing you can do. Yeah, there's nothing
you can do. And if you shoot that
wall,
part of the wall down, she can just back up all the way to the corner. And then
I think that's going to get banned.
That deep pocket where people usually hide is more of a pain in the ass now because she's all the way up here. And then you got to worry about heaven. And, you know, what the fuck is happening over there?
All right, man. Listen, I'm sure we'll get more of this story. It'll just come out in the wash a little bit. As we move on, it's not just Jet that got tweaked, right? I think one of the bigger updates to this patch, this one's got people talking a bunch, is everyone's favorite map, Split, has received a bunch of changes, presumably to, I guess, make it more attacker-sided in some senses. There's some pretty significant moves here.
Yeah,
huge.
You want to break it down? Because I'm a nerd out.
Huge. I mean, for one, I mean, these changes that you're seeing here, adding a metal box, you know, I do think the bigger sight line, though, it kind of goes either way. Mitch, you have your perspective. I do feel like it helps out a little bit on the attacker front, but I just like a lot of these changes that they made, ignoring like what's going on at B site, or besides those steps, though. That step actually is big. People don't really realize it, but it creates a whole new angle, right? That you're not necessarily going to be anticipating now. As people play more, they'll get more used to it. This right here, though, this box just makes me all manners of joy and moisture. Truly, like I love that you know, breaks up sightlines, gives you an extra little option for coverage that people can't hide back here anymore, like the rats they are. Oh, disgusting. Yeah, all these changes are fantastic.
Now, the beautiful part about this is that playing Split on attack, right? It's like, okay, the choke points, they're smothering. You can't breathe. Like every time you go through a choke point, you have a deep pocket you're going to have to clear out while watching places from heaven and all these other lanes and angles, right? So, right, they went ahead. They said, all right, we're going to take out the deep pockets. They're going to make it to where there's not a lot of hiding places. Open up doorways a little bit more to the tunnel going into B. Yes, let's put a box there. Let's put another box to block it from heaven. But something else happened when the nerds got into custom game Uber, and I'm gonna just leave it up to you to call out what's been going on.
We'll have a chance to look at that in just a second. I actually think one of the biggest changes. So basically, what we're seeing is a lot of these corners where you need to turn 45 degrees or 90 degrees rather, one way or the other to clear as an attacker. Those have been eliminated. So these are now, we've removed deep corners essentially from the game, because obviously as you clear a corner, you do not see that deep pocket until the very end. And in many cases, your model is actually protruding a little bit here. So this is like a little bit of a better way to see it. So you can see that for defenders, you see in CT, it's actually hard for you to hide in that corner. Your gun probably peeks around the corner. In that example, again, in CT, you can't just entrench yourself. The same can be said for sort of canals there as well.
Yeah.
That corner has been made less deep. Again, same situation. In the before, you could sit right up next to that door, right up back in the corner. Now, you probably need to show, you're going to get seen earlier by an attacker who's sort of clearing that room. And that's going to make a big difference. Shout out to VALORANT Brazil, by the way. They're the ones that leaked this. Make the door wider. But I think this is tied into eliminating extra corners. And this is something that Riot talked about. The biggest change, in my opinion, though, is actually to do with the A side. So this is, again, we are shallowing this corner somewhat. But it's heaven that really got changed here. Again, this is also good for retake, by the way. This benefits defenders as well as attackers. Now, it's not deep corner. The heaven changes actually make it much harder to hold as defenders here. So, I mean, the blurb text accompanying this image, guys, said that, you know, it is going to put more emphasis on fighting for ramp, because in the after, you can't play on that left side corner anymore. I think if you want to try and hold heaven, heaven, you need to back up to the box in the back right corner, which is off screen, which gives up a lot of the real estate around rope room. You can't play close to ropes now in this after. And I can see now how this is kind of forcing teams, defenders at least, to post up on ramps and try and win duels there. Because, I mean, you can't play balcony here. You'll get seen on balcony from ramp by attackers. This seems huge.
Right. Yeah, the ramp going up to A, well, excuse me, the whole entrance going into A was hell. I mean, you go into ranked and everyone wants to go B in mid, and you can't blame them. Going up that ramp, you're going to have, you know, the entranceway where the orb is going into sight. You're going to have going up to heaven. When you go to heaven, you have that tiny tunnel, that tiny lane in
Yeah.
all of Heaven where they can hide in all those corners and everything. And like you said, with the slanted walls, that's the bread and butter for Valorant right now because they're figuring out, you know what? There's just way too much hiding, and it's just that much harder for attackers. I still think a lot more can be done at A to make it more viable when it comes to attacking. I think we're almost there, but not all the way yet.
Yeah, I think about that deep pocket on a site behind screen,
On the
and
right side.
Oh,
yeah, and what I find very curious about that is how it impacts the usual spot that a retake person, or sorry, an attacker would hold trying to defend the retake, because now you don't really have the comfort of that angle anymore. When you come out of Heaven, you're going to see that clearly, whereas before you can actually kind of tuck yourself in there, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't be seen by Heaven. That changes a lot of that. The Heaven fight on a site is going to be way more profound now. It's not going to be as one and done as it once was. I do feel like you're going to see more aggression on the ramp, which means that this is only going to continue to place the emphasis on sentinels. I think for defense, because yeah, I think Cypher has a lot more work to do on B site, but you're going to want to try and stack this, because I feel like A is going to be very easy to take if you're not careful about how you play, and the composition is going to matter that much more. And with Yoru being implemented into this too, it
Dude.
also creates another wrinkle. Like, you got wider spaces for Yoru to run around in that you can't necessarily spam. Like, because think if Yoru was in play before, and he like was phased out and ran through the doorway, like I believe Yoru can still get shot, right? So I think that my brain is like thinking at a mile a minute right now with all this stuff. That's what Valorant does to you. There really is just a lot of little nitpicky opportunities for attackers to be able to benefit here, but it's not all that bad for defenders. It's still a good map for them. They still have to fight upward.
Defenders often benefit from those changes in the post plant because they
Yeah.
are, for all intents and purposes, attackers. I just think that you can't double stack Heaven anymore on A. You have to play one on ramp. Okay. So who did this a bunch? I feel like Heretics were really good at doing this in Europe, where like they'd fight for B garage control. Like every round, there'd be like a flash into B garage. They're defending, and they'll try and take control of that room and then set up crossfire, or just push for information in that way. You have to play much more aggressively off A ramp now, I think, with two
Yeah.
players, and try to put these little set plays together and double peek, or just try and trade there. Because if you lose Heaven, I don't think retaking it is a simple story at all, unless you flank through ropes and have map control
Hell
elsewhere.
no.
So
Yeah.
Veli, you got excited about Golden Boy, the double stack box on B side they sort of added there.
Yes.
People have found recent ways to sort of abuse this a little bit with sage walls.
This
It
is
was
it.
such
This is
a
it.
good idea at first, and then this happened. And now all of a sudden, Sage walls, and think about not just Sage, Brim setups, Viper setups. Look at this one way. They cannot see up the same way at all. And that makes Sage is back in the meta, boys.
Yeah. You have to be right up against that corner, but that gives you Pika's disadvantage. Like you want to be as far from the corner as possible as you push out there. And you can only see under the one way if you're right up against it. So
now
This
this
seems
is my
bad.
question. This is really bad, but this is my question now. So yeah, this looks bad, right? Okay, but as ex-professional gamer and on-air talent, I mean, counters. I'm thinking of counters already. Like this is gonna make
you're miles
Agents-
ahead of the game, Billy.
it makes agents like Brim that much more viable, right? It brings Sage back into the mix. Sage can be brought in for head games. It's going to cost a lot more utility now from the attacking side to gather that type of intel to see what type of setups are happening. So it's like, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun when it comes to theory crafting. It looks like a pain in the ass. It might overall be a pain in the ass, and I'm just extremely optimistic.
What is
This right here? Yeah, this right here is what I don't like. That's insane. This is actually broken.
They get boosted up. You can actually crouch jump that, yeah. And okay, that is a severe angle. We talk about getting rid of
Yeah.
deep corners. This is at a viewing angle for an attacker that is really
There's
unnatural.
nothing you can do. Yeah, there's
There's nothing you can do. And if you
That's gonna
shoot
get
that
banned.
wall, part of the wall down, she can just back up all the way to the corner. And then
I
when
think
you
that's
push
going to get
through,
banned.
that deep pocket where people usually hide is more of a pain in the ass now because she's all the way up here. And then you got to worry about Heaven. And, what the fuck is happening over there? That's going to be trouble.
I can't see that lasting.
The other box, I'm okay with. That one, no.
What is it about this map that makes it so difficult to balance then, in your opinion? Because this is like the most controversial map. I mean, Dapper, for example, loves it. It's his favorite But a lot of people find it really difficult.
I
It's
like the
also
map.
really hard to play against aggressive teams on this map for some. Why is it so difficult? Why do we keep seeing these issues that need to be dealt with on Split?
You know, I think that part of it, this is going to be weird, has to actually do with art. Because if you kind of go to every map in the game, like few of them are as detailed as Split is.
Right.
Split has a lot of little textures and little things that you can kind of like tuck items into. Like that's not
Mm,
to say that other maps don't have that, but for some reason, like it could just be an art thing that Split is just people just are able to abuse certain boxes and certain, like remember like getting, was it the cipher cam under the map, right? Like it was
Oh,
because
true.
of the box art that was like located on, I think it was like on the back side of the map or something like that, like on B site. So I think that that could be what it is, and that's purely speaking from like a technical perspective and having like beta tested and alpha tested games before. um but also, I don't know. I think people are just, they're just attracted to the chaos because when people see Split come up, it's like, oh God, Split. And I think it's just one of those maps that just attracts chaos.
I think it's the choke points that are just that much worse, and it has to do with what Golden Boy said as well. You take a look at like even Garage, since the game first came out. Imagine being an attacker pushing out a Garage or even A. Like you put up a cipher cam in the right spot, and you dare not push out a Garage. Like, and
Yeah.
that's just one. That is literally one piece of utility. And then the moment you step out, there are just way too many angles you can get blasted from. But then you go to bind in other maps like that, and I feel comfortable coming out of showers a short. I can go hookah. I can go, long. It doesn't matter. There's options that just don't make me that vulnerable. Even when I go in the garden, I'm trying to go to elbow. There's one, two, three, four lanes I could watch. That's reasonable. It's not chaotic to where it's like, oh shit, if I take a step, I can die from anywhere now. Like it's, I don't know. It's really difficult for attackers, and it's the choke points. The choke points are
mm.
what it is for me.
So, in Overwatch, this was also an issue that we sort of dealt with a lot as well, because choke points was the main mechanic used to try and arrest the motion of attackers in Overwatch.
Yeah.
And this map kind of reminds me of that. Is that also the more chokes you have, the easier it is for defenders to waylay attackers with less utility. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these small corners, like you can smoke these up, you can
Yeah.
molly them. It makes it harder. And conversely, attackers need to expend much more of their utility to safely clear these tight corners, these sort of shooting galleries, as has been pointed out in chat. There's a lot of these little 90-degree angle checks. You have to trade kills just to get out of spawn in some cases on a map like Split, right? It's
Yeah.
also a map where teams, defenders, mind you, at an economic disadvantage can still have a large impact because of these tight corners, right? So easy to get sort of hit by someone playing Stinger or Bucky up very close, or mid control can be a little bit difficult for attackers to take because even if you get mid, you still need to work through mailroom, which has two different angles. You can be crossfired working into there, then into heaven's the same deal. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how this gets worked on. It has been speculated actually by some sort of pro players that this map sort of a lot of these changes actually don't benefit attackers that much, like the B-side box changes. Some people sort of feel like it's better for defenders in some senses. Also, sometimes at the pro level, we just see this map being attacker-sided in general, based on
Yeah.
the sort of the agents that are in vogue at the time, or sort of what the strategy is on that particular map. Kind of hard to play retake for defenders because of the same issues that make it harder for attackers to make progress there. So I'm interested to see, what the Split philosophy is going forward now, and how these elements of the map are kind of tweaked to make it a little bit more friendly for attackers, or how they get closer to that sort of parity between attacker and defender success rate. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We should
I
also
like this map.
I just
Am
want
I
to say,
attracted to crazy shit? Go ahead.
oh no, I just wanted to say one thing though. Of all the maps in Valorant, I don't think any map has gotten nearly as much attention put on it as Split.
I think
And
Icebox will.
No. Icebox is hated, but people still really dislike
yeah,
Split.
but Icebox just came out, right? Like Split was getting tweaks done even when the game launched. Split
Yeah.
had tweaks done. Split is the only map in the game that has had, well, Icebox has had some changes now too, but Split has had the most out of any map. It's clear that this map has been a pain point for Riot because they have had to make so many adjustments to it. And I think back to this video a while ago that someone made about Riot's map design and how I think people were even calling it like lazy. And they were saying like, their solution for this was just a big box here and a big box there. And there was like no real creativity.
Was that in regards to the Icebox A site changes, perhaps?
No. This was back when I believe Split was we only had 3 maps in the game. I'm fairly certain this video came out a while ago. And I just remember that it was like really questioning Riot's map design choices and how it's like their solution to everything was chokes and boxes, and that was it, and then we got Ascent and we saw a little bit more creativity there, and then we got Icebox, and I personally like Icebox, but I also understand a lot of the grievances that people have with it. Yeah, it's clear this map has been a pain point for them because they've made many changes to it, whereas Bind and Haven haven't really seen much in the way of changes all that much, like some small things here and there, but nothing radical like we're seeing with Split.